Welcome to the North College Hill City Council Rules and Public Policy Meeting. Thank you all for being here this evening. We have a lot of budget stuff to talk about, so that we don't have to have a million meetings this year, I am going to yield my time for this committee to the Budget and Finance Committee, whose chair is Ms. Dukestein. Ms. Dukestein?
Okay. So because of that, I sent out the agenda for both meetings because Ms. Underwood agreed to yield over our time. I am going to let the departmental presentations proceed. They look to be together all in one packet, so the police department is the first up. I'll let them go first. You want me to drive your thing? Okay.
Thank you, though. All right. So for the police department, and what you guys will get is kind of an overview of what we plan to do in 2024 and what we're asking for, and a lot of information that way. The biggest thing, obviously a big change in the TOWAT this year. The TOWAT is doing very well, so I think it's a conservative goal, but the TOWAT continuation, this year we're already at $28,000 in profit for the TOWAT for our first year, and we still have 2 months left. So I'm looking at it and estimating a reasonable $32,000 in first year or second year operations in revenue that way. And that's a breakdown of about $16,000 from the actual storage fees versus selling of those cars. Okay. One of the other things that we wanted to get done, and I was trying to tell you, or trying to sell it and tell you the story. Here's a picture of the canine kennel out back of the police department. One of the things that we want to do is renovate that kennel and change that. The SPCA is kind of no longer. They now Hamilton County went with a contract service for a contract agency. That contract agency, where we used to have the SPCA come and pick up the stray dogs that we found running around within about an hour, now they're giving us about an 8-hour window that they come out. That means that the police department has to house that dog. The problem I have is that kennel is old. That kennel does not have a roof on it, and we are so close to the school in an all-walking school district. I would like to update that kennel and make sure that it's secure with a roof on it, because we don't know anything about these dogs. We don't know anything about their shots. We don't know anything about if they're dangerous, anything like that. So I would like to update that before somebody gets hurt. Okay. My major goals, obviously, to maintain the minimum staffing levels that we still have. Hiring is always a premium, and trying to keep us up to staffing levels has become a major ordeal, and I think that's universal across the board in public safety right now. The other goal is to make sure that our fleet is in well working order. So my goal is to keep all of the cruisers on a maintenance schedule where we're getting new cruisers in, getting the old cruisers out, so that we can kind of cut down on the vehicle maintenance budget and keep a good working fleet out there. Again, there's also extra time of when the car's down. Not only are we having the cost for the maintenance and everything else, but we also have that out of service time where that car's down, and yeah, it does affect our response times just a little bit. The other goals that we have, and the other things that you'll see increase in the budget, modernizing our existing equipment, pistols, rifles, shotguns, and other equipment that go along with it as we have new officers and new things that come in, as well as the extended time and potential for the weekends part-time clerks. Right now we are limited by our clerks in the evening. We'd like to be able to maximize that time. All the things that the clerks do now, from answering phones, taking payments, not only for court, but also the TOWAT, I think it would make sense to maximize those times and trying to maximize our profits and our ability to recoup some of those monies and things out there. And then the last thing really is just the GPS units on the vehicle. The GPS units that we're looking at will show unit speed, location, idle time, like how long it's been sitting there, and will also alert us to any maintenance and other things needed on the vehicles.
May I? Just one super quick. On that GPS, and you said how long it's sitting there, what does that mean?
So idle time, it'll give me a GPS location of where exactly the car is, and it'll tell me if it's been sitting idle, like sitting still at that location.
While in use?
Yes, while in
Okay.
use, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, I have a question. As far as like the maintenance for the police vehicles, do we have a contract with anyone, you know, for those regular maintenance type items?
We don't have a contract. We have, like our Public Works does what they can do. So if it's rotating tires, if it's, oil changes, something like that that they can handle, we utilize our Public Works to do that. And that's the most cost-efficient thing that we've been able to find. If it's something outside of the realm of the work or capabilities that they can do, we kind of shop it out depending upon what it is. So if it's under warranty or we believe it'll be under warranty, then it'll go to like Woody Sanders Ford that can do that warranty work. If it's a Dodge, then it'll go to like one of the Chrysler Dodge Jeep stores. If not, then we look for something along that route. Okay?
I have a question. Do you guys normally give, I know I've seen this, but I don't know if it's come from you specifically, the difference between what you spent last year versus what you're planning to spend projectively this year?
So
Because I guess the purpose of this is to understand what's in your budget for 2024. Has that increased in any way?
the highlighted sections that I gave you are the ones that have increased or that had any kind of major change.
Got it.
Okay? And so what I did,
May I jump in?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. What you don't have in front of you is the actual draft copy of the budget. I wanted to get through the presentation first so that you could hear the narrative, hear the story, listen to the reasoning and, why we're asking for what we're asking. The points that the chiefs will make are highlighted in here so you can find them quickly. So things like the tow lot and the kennel, you will find that under the police budget. It's highlighted, all the major changes are highlighted in orange so that you can find them. Everything else is pretty on par from the 23 budget, unless there's a note next to it. So that's sort of the key to understanding this document after you hear the story.
Madam Chair, Chief Sharan, I did have one question for you. What happens to the pistols, rifles, once you modernize and upgrade? What happens to the ones that you have?
It depends upon what it is. For example, like the rifles, those are given to us off of government surplus, so we modernize them, but we don't get rid of them. So they're all those, and the parts and everything else are still there. Right now, as far as pistols, we do need to upgrade and modernize the pistols, but we're down a lot because the pistols go with the folks when they retire, and we've had a lot of folks retire, and we haven't been able to replace those. So we're still replacing those. At some point, if it does ever get to that point where we are able to sell pistols, usually what we'll do is we'll do the buyback program where the manufacturer, whoever's giving us the new pistols, will sell them back to them, and they give us a discount or huge credit on whatever we're buying. So it gives us that limit.
And I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just when you're talking about your part-time employees, those, you are looking to have them under 30 hours, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Chief Strand,
Mhm.
these two vehicles, cruisers you're trying to replace a year, will these be brand new vehicles?
Yes.
Brand new? Okay.
I have a question also. Pardon me. So the retirees, when they leave with their pistols, is it safe to assume that they purchase them, or we just give them to them as a gift, or this is news to me, so if you could shed some light as to the details of that one.
Yeah, so for the last, I want to say almost 5 years, it's been in the contract that the full-time contract and the part-time contract, I don't know the exact section off the top of my head, But in the contract, if they have so many years in, that was one of the things that they wanted as their retirement or gift or whatever. And so that is one of the things that they put in the contract and was agreed upon in the contract is when they leave, they get rewarded and to get to take their duty pistol home with them. So.
At one point, couldn't they purchase it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll be short and sweet too. Thank you all. I know there's some new faces here. Nice to meet you. Hello, hello. My budget is probably the, I don't know, least complicated of all. It comes from 3 different revenue sources. The general fund, EMS billing fund, where we recoup our fees for our service, and then the fire levy fund, which started in 2021 with a 12 mil levy, which carries the bulk weight of the fire department budget. The general fund is nothing more than a supplement to the salaries, which are approximately 1.2 million for the full-time, the 13 full-time we have, and the part-time staff, and then all their ancillary benefits. You can kind of see you'd asked about the historical. A lot of our budget was set by the fire task force, which preceded the levy. I know Ms. Underwood was a big part of that. That budget was drug out for 10 years. Surplus in the early years, and then as we get a little lean, those surpluses help carry us further, so we don't have to come ask for more millage, that kind of thing. It's in the task force report that is not included here. But for those of you that want that or whatever, I can always give you that document. But our budget was kind of locked set then. You guys kind of know our big hit items because you've already passed them. The ambulance, the fire truck, those pieces of legislation went through. And like all things, it takes a year, 18 months, 2 years to actually get the vehicle. We've already made the first $70,000 payment on the fire truck. It isn't supposed to be here until spring of next year. We're due to receive the ambulance in the spring of next year, hopefully. All those things are kind of lockstep. Other than that, there's not much as far as new capital equipment. We're still full speed ahead this year. We did major renovations to the firehouse, the structure on the outside. Now we're kind of getting to the inside. We've done some restrooms, expanded the bedroom capabilities so we can house more people, those kind of things. Like I said, the fire equipment fund is 100% coming from EMS billing revenues. We've been blessed by a great crew up there. One of my lieutenants who does the oversight and the QA in our runs has gotten us to a 92% return, which is the highest that our third-party bill or med account management has seen in all their clients. So we recoup 92% of what we bill out. I think last year that equated to about a gross of about $80,000. We pay 6.5% on that. So, but that has built up some of the surpluses in that fire levy, our fire equipment fund. So that's been great news. Other than that, it's typically a fixed budget, so to speak. It's all based on call volume, statistics, 80% BLS, 20% ALS, and what that kind of spreads out to be. The good news is starting at the end of this year, CMS, Medicare, Medicaid are having us, all the agencies throughout the country, do a true cost assessment of what it actually costs to provide service. The backside of that, or this review, is hopefully in 2025, they're going to raise the allowables way up. So hopefully in the future, our EMS billing returns will be much higher because, as you all know, the cost of keeping the lights on, having somebody there 24 hours, it's thus far, the $300 we roughly get per run isn't covering those costs. So ideally, hopefully 2025, we see a major increase in that. We're all hoping for that. But this is basically what provides the day-to-day operating cost. It's all the expendables, the EMS supplies, the vehicle maintenance, and you can see some of the other forms. Uniforms, clothing, $12,000 a year for fire hydrant maintenance, which is more than enough to keep us up to speed. As long as we're keeping up on it, or at any point in time, there's no more than 2 or 3 hydrants out of service in the city. At any point in time, you guys have also been great. I know some people report through GovPilot, our code enforcement thing. We get those as well through there. And like I said, 302 is basically salaries, fringe benefits, pension, and the big ticket capital items, the fire truck and the ambulance you guys have already approved this year. Nothing else coming next year. Once we get the ambulance, the fire truck, the ambulance will be typically those are on 10-year cycles. So 5 years frontline, 5 years reserve, backup ambulance, and then hopefully we can sell them for a little bit of value out the door. Go ahead.
I think I heard you say the ambulance is anticipated to be here in spring of next year.
Next year.
Did you tell us the date for the fire truck, or did I just not?
No, it's still spring of next year. Now, that being said,
The
it
fire
hasn't hit
truck
the
is,
assembly. Yeah,
so they both are?
they both are.
Okay.
It has not hit the assembly line yet, but they assure us that once it does, it's about a 3.5 month lead time. That seems, I don't know, a bit optimistic to me, but hopefully by summer. Like I said, we've already made our first $70,000 payment, and it still isn't here, so that's a little disheartening. Something else that came with the fire department the spring of this year was the bringing on the property maintenance responsibilities with Lieutenant Doug Eikens. He did something similar over in Coleraine as part of a grant program over there for several years. That kind of went by the wayside. At the same time, we were losing our contracted property maintenance officer here, Roger Neff. So we've taken that on. One of the big things was the lack of communication between the people that had issues and the code enforcement office getting back via email, phone calls, Post-it notes, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it was ridiculous. So we bought this program called GovPilot. GovAlert is the software that you guys see on the end user, that you can submit complaints through your phone or your computer, and we get those. And anytime there's any interaction, you should be getting feedback. It's telling you it's in process. You can see where it is. I just did a report. We've received over 300 complaints this year. A lot of those are getting addressed. I hope you guys see some of the results. I know a lot of it goes under the radar, but you can always log in if you ever have a question and see the history of the complaints for the property that exist. Just so we've already assessed $20,000, and you got $20,000 of assessments that have come through council for grass, taking down trees, boarding up houses, all those things, that legislation you guys are seeing come through. And I did a report, and then I guess there's still $50,000 on the books that property owners owe us for this next tax year. Any questions? And this is also a thing in review. I know that we kind of had our first generation of it. We're trying to kind of streamline a little bit more and all that, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
You struck my curiosity. The 20 grand, does that just go in general fund?
No, those are assessments that are on the lien, those are liens on the property owners. So for all the grass cutting, all that sit there, and then it's coming back, but yes, it should be coming back to the general fund. There's not a dedicated account for those yet.
Okay.
Not the way it comes back, but the theory was once we collect those assessments, it goes into that nuisance abatement fund that you guys created this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'm just asking, you guys last year gave us $40,000 to do this. I'm asking you to basically refund the same $40,000. I hope we can get quite a bit more aggressive there. I know Jennifer and I have talked about redoing some zoning things, getting a lot more, a lot more tough on this end of the spectrum. But there are some legal woes we're having with some of our outdated codified ordinances that are overlapping and, in opposition to each other. So, any questions? Fire department wise? Not at all? Okay, thank you.
The Public Works Director and the Parks and Recreation Director could not be here this evening, so I will be going over their reports. If there are no more questions for the chiefs, I told them that they could go. They have some family obligations with their kids tonight. So if you do come up with questions, feel free to email them after this meeting or as we go through this process. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I am not that tall. Okay, I'm going to start with the Finance Department. We have been talking about this, pardon me. We are looking at implementing our new accounting software. This is probably, we've made some very basic strides towards that, but the bulk of this project is going to be in 2024, just due to the timing and year end. And we need to make sure our books are good and correct before we transfer all of that information to the new program. We can't go back and fix it once we do the transfer. So it's really important that we get all of those numbers, all the money in the right bucket like we talked about last time. We know where the revenues and the expenses are so that we have good information in, so we have good information coming back out to you. We will also complete the transition to ADP in terms of the payroll processing. As you know, we're with Paycor now. We were transitioning to ADP. We kind of paused that for a little bit because of some of the accounting updates that we need to do. So that is still going to continue into 2024. One of the things we have not talked about yet, but I think we want to look at, and this really isn't a budgetary, there's not a line item for this per se, but I think it's an important conversation we have, is going out and looking for other banking relationships that we could have. We have been with our current bank for a number of years. I feel like our fees may be a little higher than what they could be. And so typically what a government would do is every 5 years put out a request for proposal from banks in the region to get, compare apples to apples in terms of fees and some of the other bank charges that we pay, and see if we can't save some money that way. So that would be one of my goals for the finance department for next year. And along those lines, we have an HSA that we offer to our employees to go along with a health insurance plan. Our employees pay a lot of fees through this particular company, and I know that there are opportunities out there for our employees to have a no-cost or a fee-free HSA program, and I think that would be a nice thing to do for the employees. It would mean some transferring of those HSA dollars, but I think that anybody we would go to would help and assist with that transfer. So that's one of the things we're looking at. In terms of two really big items that we're going to focus some attention on for next year is a 5-year capital budget. And so this is all of those capital expenditures that are being captured in your annual budget now that really should be kind of separated out so that we can keep track. Things like ambulances and fire trucks and police vehicles and large pieces of equipment like snowplows and dump trucks, that sort of thing. So we would like to put that together. We've started, we need to work on life expectancies and replacement costs and that sort of thing. So that's going to be something, again, that we're working on next year, along with the 25 to 30 forecast, a 5-year forecast, so that we have a better idea for planning, like we keep talking about, as we go through the next couple of years. We know what's coming up. We know when it's coming up. We know in that timeline what are those capital items that need to be replaced. So those
So
are...
You said the 25 to 30-year budget forecasting, for what reason? I'm sorry, I'm just trying
2025 to a 5-year forecast, so that we know when those items coming up need to be replaced. It would go along with the capital budget. So we can forecast revenues, we can forecast expenses, we can line that up a little bit better with some of those replacement costs that we would have.
So you said 5 years?
2025 to 2030, that 5-year period.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
You were naming the year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
5-year. And then I had a question about the ADT versus Paycor. And we were supposed to start that, but we didn't because you said you put a pause, but
We got delayed.
is that on our end or theirs?
That was on our end.
Okay.
Well, a little bit of both, but
And then, so we already purchased the contract?
we signed the contract, yes. We are not paying them yet. We don't pay until after we process our first payroll with them.
And are we in a contract with Paycor, or how does that work?
No, no.
Oh,
That we were been in that so long, it's kind of a month-to-month thing.
okay.
Okay.
Jennifer, I just heard 2/24. What month were you trying to implement the new accounting software? What month? You
I
said-
don't have a month yet.
Oh, you just said
No,
2024? I thought I
2024.
heard a month.
Yeah.
Okay. It's 2024.
We had hoped to get it done this year, but we're just not going to be able to.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to, whoop, going the wrong way. Administration. So As you know, you guys have spent the last 18 months, 24 months on the new comprehensive plan. We have draft copies of that. Planning Commission is looking at it right now. A goal for 2024 would be to pass and implement this new plan. And so we still have some work to do ahead of us in terms of a recommendation from Planning Commission to City Council, and then City Council's review of the document and accepting that as this is the path we want to take. We agree that in general, we agree to the tenets of the plan, and we will take those implementation steps to actually implement it over the next 20 years. So again, it's a goal without a line item in the budget per se, but it's sort of the overarching theme for me. You guys put a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money behind this plan in getting everyone in step, marching in the same direction so that we can execute those tenets of the plan as they, as we agree upon them, I think are very important and help set the path of the city over the next 2 decades. So, right, that's why we all did the plan. So along with that, the big line item you will see is a zoning code rewrite in the admin budget. And this is to support that comprehensive plan. So once it's adopted, and Chief Fells referred to this, our zoning code is in desperate need of a complete rewrite. It's old, it's antiquated, there is conflicting information, some parts of it are unenforceable. And so if we really want to get serious about our zoning, our code enforcement, our property maintenance, we need to have the tools that will help us do that and help us enforce that. So that is the big ticket item you're going to see in my budget this year.
Why is it so big? Where's the cost come from?
I got a couple of quotes, and it's probably going to be about $100,000.
So who is it? Is it the attorneys so Bill can't do it, or no, he doesn't do it, or?
We would want a consultant to come in and take a look at this. Hamilton County has some resources too. We have some opportunity for some grants through them. But assuming this is something we want to do, we would pursue those at that time. There are attorneys out there that do only zoning codes. So if we wanted an attorney to do it, we could go that way. I didn't get any quotes from attorneys. A consultant would be a little less expensive. So, that's all up for conversation, but you will see that in there. We need to fully staff our vacant city positions, continue to work on the financial health of the city. The big line item I put in your budget is money for a traffic calming plan and a traffic study. So you will see that in there. You will see it highlighted. I really think we need to do this. I think we're all keenly aware of the speeding issues, the traffic issues, the incidents. I think that as a group, we need to take a hard look at this with our engineers, with our public safety, and put together a plan that we can implement so that we can do our part in reducing, whether it's the speed, or I don't think we can reduce the count so much, but we've talked a lot about what College Hill is doing currently. We've talked a lot about speed bumps. We've talked a lot about raised crosswalks, some other things like that. Pardon me. But I think we need to capture all of this in a plan so that we know what we need to do. We know where we need to do it. A lot of these conversations come from a very emotional level, right? You see a near miss on your street. You witness an accident. Those are very emotional, and you think, oh, that's the high traffic area. We need data that says what we need to be doing where. And do that in line with our engineers, with the data, so we can make good choices and spend our money wisely.
We've done that, haven't we?
Just for Galbraith.
There's just one for Galbraith Road. I'm talking about taking a comprehensive look at the city. The residential streets, Hamilton Avenue, all of it. I'd like to continue to work with our CIC on a housing strategy that reflects the new comprehensive plan goals. That is, I think, where they have settled as an organization, like the thing that they want to work on, they think they can provide the most value because of the property they currently own. I know we're talking to some developers about some, residential opportunities here in town. I'd like to continue working on that effort. That may mean we take a piece of it as the city. I don't know what that looks like yet, but that is something that is on the radar. And then the other thing, and this is not really budget related per se, but I think as an employer, we need to have an employee benefits committee. I think that that's one of the things that we can get some more employee buy-in and participation in a way that we don't have now. I think it helps build relationships with the unions and with those employees and the folks who are the employees representing the unions at some of these meetings that we go to about health insurance and dental insurance and that sort of thing. I think it's not a budgetary line item per se, other than it may affect what the overall cost of the benefits are, but I think it's important that we do that as a city for the employees. Public Works, pardon me. The items you're going to see in the Public Works budget are filling the vacant positions. We have 2 employees retiring next year. You will see that their salary line item is unusually large, and it's because both of those employees will have payouts for their vacation and sick time. So that's what that is. We have other positions that we need to fill. So we'd like to get a start on that now and kind of overhaul the way the Public Works Department is structured. Along with that, we will need a training budget for our new hires. Public Works currently has not had much of a training budget in the past. They will need one going forward for some of these new employees, especially if they are less skilled than the folks we're going to lose through retirement, which one would expect that would be the case. We need to purchase a couple of lawnmowers to replace aging equipment, and I would like to purchase a truck so that we can permanently mount a water tank. So as we talk about our landscaping and beautification efforts, we have a way to water everything. That seems to be, like, the maintenance is the missing piece, right? We have landscaping we want to do, we've got parks we want to maintain. The watering thing has been an issue for us. And I think this would be money well spent, where we know on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we go out and we water all the parks and the landscaping and the flowers, whatever we all end up with. So you'll see that in there as well. And then I'd like to create more of a schedule for our alleys and the cleanup of our other city properties. I think sometimes these come last on the list of things to do. And I think it's important that we set a good example in terms of what our expectations are for the residents. So if we're going to crack down on code enforcement and our own house isn't clean, so to speak, we're just being hypocrites. So I think we need a renewed effort in terms of maintaining that a little bit better than what we have been. Recreation. There's a lot here. I think one of the things that we've been talking about internally is a special events ordinance. I think you guys have had some conversations in the past with Ms. Clear on it. I think we need to refine our process a little bit in terms of how we handle those outside organizations that are not city events. So you will see some things coming on that. And again, not really a budget line item, so to speak, but on the radar for next year. Using the senior center to offer additional programming, whether that's for seniors or for youth or for other organizations. As you all know, it's on the ballot again to get passed, hopefully for another 5 years. And it would be good for us to program that building a little bit better. So trying to figure out where that would come in may mean a change in the budget as we figure out what that's going to look like. Ms. Clear has talked about Civic Rec. That's our management software that we've purchased to help manage reservations, pay for things online, that sort of thing. Continuing our training on that and getting that used more widely. And then print and mail at least one issue of an activity guide brochure to all the residents and businesses within the city limit. That is
Print and mail.
Mail.
Mail the activity guide.
activity guide. And that is something that could be done in conjunction with a newsletter, which is, you'll also see in the budget. You know, if we get on this on a quarterly or 3 times a year mailing, this is something that could go in tandem with that or could be included in it. But we recognize that people, not everybody has access to the internet. Not everybody wants to get online to check everything. And so you will see in both recreation and in admin, our postage costs going up. Not huge, but it's highlighted so that you can see it just because of the increase in mailing costs that we haven't done in the last year or two.
You said in recreation and what?
Admin. And then construction projects, we've kind of moved all of those to parks. We've carved that out separately because we do have so many things going on. So we'll get to parks separately. All park expenditures have been moved to a parks budget, so you will see that will be something new. In the hard copy that I will give you, this is just a recap of what will be in those documents. Let's talk about parks.
So does it fall, you said all parks budgets have been moved to its own category. Does that fall under recreation?
For now, it does.
And so that's still, Annalisa is still?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we felt like in terms of managing it better, it made sense to see it differently, right? So that we could kind of separate it out. If you guys don't like it, we can work on something else. But that's kind of where we were coming from. Trying to make this easier for everybody. There are a number of goals for the parks as we go through. Some of these won't be a surprise to you in terms of the leases that we have, the splash pad that's coming, replacing some of the aging equipment at Stapleton. Veterans, we've got, we have a big wish list for that, but I'm not sure. We'll get to it in 24. That might be a 25, 26 budget expenditure at that point, but these are what's on the radar for parks this year. If you want additional details, I'm sure Ms. Clear will be happy to share that at our next meeting. So parks looks like a big number because A, it's new, and it's $301,000. Keep in mind, most of that is the splash pad, and most of that is being funded with the ARPA funds. So as you look at that, it's a number that,
I'm sorry, it was me. What was that last, you said it's a big number and then I didn't.
Funded with.
it's ARPA.
Thank you. That's what I didn't hear.
Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
it's a big number. We've got some estimates on some of the other things that we'd like to do in the parks. I think the security cameras are one that we really need to take a hard look at. There are incidents we know that are in the parks that we could probably get to a more expeditious resolution if we actually saw what was going on in the parks. So you will see some numbers in the budget for that. And then the capital budget is mostly the security cameras and the splash pad. The Senior Center, and I would be remiss if I didn't introduce Colleen Ellis, our new Senior Center coordinator, to everyone who joined us this evening. She's week 2, 3 on the job, I think. So we're very happy to have her. And as you know, we just got the building earlier in 2023. We've been making some updates to the building, the life safety, ceiling, some paint, kitchen equipment, which we did get a grant for. But we still have a little bit of things that we need to get done, namely the access control, and that's the door locking features for the building. If we do want to be in a position where we use that for other outside groups, having a key and a lock is not the best way to do it. There are electronic features out there that we can have that you can send somebody a code, right? Like, kind of like when you run an Airbnb and you punch in your code and it expires after X number of hours. So we're looking at some of those things, getting some pricing on what that could look like and what the different options are. There's wired, there's wireless, there's cellular, there's all kinds of things. I had no idea. But we are looking into it, and you will see that under the senior section of the budget with some notes too.
That's coming out of the,
Levy. Yes, the senior budget right now is funded entirely by the levy dollars. Okay, so we're expending the projected revenue for next year, I think, is about 53,000 and some change. We'll have some carryover because we got some money back from the nonprofit that ran it previously that, gave it back to us, which has been funding some of the building renovations that we've done yet this year. But for that, there is not a general fund in the budget right now. There is not a general fund contribution to the senior center. There could be, should you choose to do one. So, and that's what it is. And I need to change that one. So that is it in a nutshell. I know we got through that faster than I expected. I purposely did give you copies so that you would listen to the story, like I said, without paging through the numbers. I know it's, everybody wants to see what's the bottom line. I understand that. But in an effort to make this more conversational and collaborative, I thought this was a different way to start, maybe that you guys hadn't done in the past. And so this was really just an attempt at doing that. And so my request of you would be, after you get the budget spreadsheet, and I will tell you, it is not 100% done. It says draft. There are some missing spots in it because I'm still waiting on some numbers for things. If there is a highlighted section with no number, I'm waiting on a number. Okay? I tried to make, I like color-coded, so things are color-coded. There are comments in the budget. I don't know what you have had in the past. We tried to put as much detail actually in the spreadsheet so you could see it. We don't know what our carryover for 2023 looks like yet because we're not at the end of the year. We don't know because we're still trying to figure out some of the things that we need to get figured out so we can get you a number. So that there is not a carryover number in your budget right now. There is not. But I will tell you, even without that carryover, we are in the black with all the things in the budget. So I think we're doing okay. So whatever that carryover number is will be, I don't want to say excess because it's not really excess. There will be additional funds that could be used should another project come up or council should choose to do a different kind of project or something, comes up that we weren't expecting in the next year, right? So, yes, ma'am.
I'm going to back us up a little bit because I took my eyes off my computer and went over here and read for a minute. I'm backing up to parks and where it says, we're talking about Dumley, and it says Rumpke Portalet rental for summer season only. And that reminded me that at one time we talked about putting bathrooms in there. Is that anywhere?
There are not bathrooms in your current plan.
I know.
Correct.
Are we talking about that in the future? Are we going to stick with
That is up to you all.
portalets annually?
I think
Madam
that is.
Chair, I believe, Ms. Zorb, if you recall, when we initially talked about that, we went down to the health department and everybody, and we wanted to start without it, and then if funding became available, it would go in. So they initially did 2 plans, one with, one without. But if I recall correctly, it'll begin without, and then when funds become available, they'll be added.
That's kind of where I was going. Are we looking into the future to have them down the road, or
If we,
is
well,
the permanent plan to have portalets every summer?
that's not the permanent plan. The
That's what I was
portalets were
asking.
just for in the beginning.
Perfect.
In lieu of this consideration where I would like, and I want to keep the spirit of conversation, as Ms. Iki said, but what I would like to do next is take a look at the budget and just have an opportunity to like just look at it. I know we're in public land where people are, but we need the opportunity to look at what we're going to be talking about. So I don't know if you want to kind of pass it out and we can then take time to look at it, ask questions, take a break. We need to take a break in between meetings and then come back to the table.
What I think I would ask of you is, this is the first time you're seeing these numbers. I understand that. It's a lot to digest. It's 22 pages long. I'd like you to take it home and look at it and start making a list of questions and sending those to me in advance of whenever we're going to meet again. I don't know if it'll be at the finance meeting or, you know, what our next opportunity to talk about the budget is, so that I can get you the answers ahead of time. Because if you ask me a specific question about police or fire and they're not here, I'm not going to be able to answer it for you. I mean, that is just not a good use of anybody's time. So if we know where the questions are, or as we get additional information, because again, I said, there are some blanks in there. So I will send all of this to you, but there will be other forthcoming copies as we get the new information. And I don't know how frequently you want that updated, whether it's, you know, if we have new information in 2 weeks, if that's good, or, you know, every time we make a change, you want to see it. I don't know. I mean, I think, I think.
May I? As long as you've got things color-coded, I don't think we need to see every individual change that takes place. But if you keep that color-coded so that we can see, I mean, eventually you're going to have to do blue and green and, I guess. But would that be an option?
I don't think, not to debate that, I just don't know what we're getting ready to see. So if we can see, then I think that would help what the direction is. It just depends on how many spaces are empty. I mean, that's what I think.
Not a lot. Some of the utilities at the parks that we don't know about, quotes that we're waiting on, like some of the security cameras. We haven't plugged in all the road, like which payments on the road projects are coming up next year because of cycle in and out. So there are a handful of things, but we're working on that. I mean, I would think probably in the next 2 weeks or by the time we have the next finance meeting, it would look a little different because we would have more of that information to put in there.
So to be honest, I probably do have some immediate questions, but I don't want to project the questions without looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, you talked about the security cameras in the parks. Is that, I would like to see how much does that increase us? And then I'd have some follow-up questions if I could see how much that looks in tandem to the overall budget.
Okay.
So that's why I'm.
No, and I'm happy to pass it out. I know that this is like flipping through it for the next 10 minutes. We're not, it's
So
not going to be comprehensive.
May I believe the city director is wanting us just to take it home. Putting it in front of us now and trying to make a discussion out of it is not going to be effective at all. It's going to be time-consuming and not effective.
Well, there are some things that she mentioned in her presentation that I had immediate questions about, but I didn't want to ask them without seeing the numbers. And some of it is things that we're going to have to take home. Some of it is, if we were to see the numbers, I might be able to ask. I'm using discretion because I know that it's not finalized, and I don't want to ask questions that would make you uncomfortable or have to present information that isn't ready yet. So that's why I'm asking to see it so that I know, hey, this is a good time to ask this or not.
Okay.
So you are going to pass it out?
Yes, I have copies for everyone. I will email copies. We had some copier issues and I just didn't get the email sent out today. But I can PDF it to everybody if you'd rather have a digital copy. But I did print copies for tonight.
Okay.
I will tell you, my biggest concern is version control. In the past, we never knew what version to be looking at.
And that's why we need to make all the changes. Like,
Right.
if you have, if you want to give me
somehow it's
a
numbered,
marked
this
up
is version
copy that
1, this
says,
is version 15.
how about this, how about this, how about this? That's how I would handle that.
Yes.
We can't manage 7 different copies of this out there. It's just, we would lose track of it.
Yes.
Can I add? Are you guys okay? So I've been doing budgets a long time, and I can maybe give us a little insight on the easiest way to do this. So this is very similar to what I'm used to. You guys take it, you digest, you ask us the questions, and then we respond in writing. So you have it in writing to be like, what did we say again? And everybody gets it. In terms of versions, I would recommend that we do like one big change at the end. That's
Right.
what I always did. So, and then what I did was a cover sheet as we were making that final analysis of the budget. So that when we're looking to have you guys take some action on it, I gave a cover sheet that said all of these things changed, and here was the impact of what happened and what changed. And that was the only version you saw with those changes. I think in terms of, to your point of keeping it so not 20 versions are floating around, but, we're open to doing it whatever makes sense and is easy for you guys to understand. But just in my experience, I think if we change and change and change and change, we're gonna all get real confused.
May I? I agree with you, because the process that we've had in the last few years, 4 or 5 years, has not been effective. We've not been made known of anything. We've passed budgets that we didn't even know what the heck was in them because they weren't true. So I would prefer to have it, that's kind of like the old-fashioned way that I'm familiar with. But anyway.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they weren't true. I just think we had multiple copies.
Yeah.
When the changes were made.
Sure.
So it was multiple copies,
Confusion.
like 5.
The other thing we're working on putting together is sort of a dashboard of revenues and expenses. So you can see on a single sheet of paper, all the expenses in every fund, the revenues coming in, the expenses in every fund, where we are at the end as a projection, as a way to start this whole forecasting process. So I thought I would have it ready for tonight. I don't, because we're still missing some of the revenue pieces, and it skewed things. And then I made changes at the last minute, so I didn't get that updated. So it is something I'm working on. So you literally have a page at a glance. What does the budget look like? Which I think also helps in some of those conversations and keeping us on track.
So in lieu of making sure that we close this one and open up the next one, are you done with budget presentation? Because if so, we can go right into
Yes.
executive session on the next one.
Yes.
Okay, or do you all have, well,
Not yet,
we're gonna
not
take a
yet.
break.
Not yet.
So why don't we,
Well, to be honest, on this, we have old business and new business. Do you want to go through that real quick?
yes, so
Because
what
it's
I
on
was,
the, it's on
what
this
I was-
agenda too.
yeah.
Sorry.
So what I was trying to decipher. Yeah, let's just do that. So, do we have any new business pertaining to budget and finance? Okay, old business? And so because Ms. Underwood yielded our time, I just want to, and we do have a little bit of time, I want to make sure that she has any, if she has any urgent issues that are in her committees that she wanted to talk, I'm going to yield it back over.
She does not.
Okay. So we will adjourn at 7:24, and then we will reconvene at 7:35. So that gives us about an 11-minute break. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you to what is technically the North College Hill City Council Public Safety Meeting. At this time, I am going to yield my time to the Budget and Finance Committee so that we can kind of, so the Budget and Finance Committee so we can discuss or handle some issues in that committee.
Thank you. The first on our agenda is executive session. So I'm going to ask Ms. Underwood to use her eloquent application of the lawful language to move us into executive session.
Okay, so I am, of course, going to apologize because, I am an attorney, and attorneys typically make things more difficult than they need to be. So, as I'm reading the Ohio Administrative Code, won't bore you with the section number, it says, the vote to go into an executive session must be a roll call vote. It says must, not maybe, must be. So I don't know that we've been doing that before, but that's what this says we are supposed to do. So that's what I'm going to do. Says the motion and vote must specify the purposes of the executive session. And let's see. Should specify one or more of the purposes set forth in paragraph A1 of this rule. So that is what I'm going to do. So pursuant to section Ohio Revised Code 121.22, section G1, I move.
Slow down. 121.22.
Subsection G1,
Thank you.
I move that we enter into executive session to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee and also to discuss matters required to be kept confidential by federal law. So now I'm going to call the roll because this says we should be doing a roll call vote. Yeah, we do. We normally do a vote. Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Dewalt,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood, yes. Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
and Ms. Bruner.
Yes.
The motion passes 7, I believe that's 7-0. So at this time, we're going to move into executive session.
Yes. And Mayor, Ms. Eke, and all of council. I just want to identify, not leaving you all out, but
Are we standing here or are they going? Are we going in there?
personally don't have anything else. We can take this budget home and study and digest and come back together at whatever next meeting.
Would I consider this new business, what you're saying right now? Or
Just coming back from the executive. So we can, does anyone have any new business for
We already went through that.
the last one? We're in a new meeting because we're doing her 2 meetings.
I thought it was all one agenda for both meetings.
I sent out 2.
Okay.
He does the finance.
I don't have anything.
She's the secretary.
Do we have any old business?
I do not, but can you like reiterate the point that Ms. Iki would like us to send questions about the budget via email, right? Is that,
Yes.
was that the plan?
I would like that, and then that way I can take all of your questions, get all of the answers, and send it out to everyone, so everybody's got the same information in front of them.
Please be advised, though, we are not allowed to debate the budget. We
No.
can just
But you
read
can,
the
questions.
information. We can send you a question, we can read your reply.
Correct.
But when, we're not allowed to reply again. That's where the debate comes in.
Right, but we can provide information.
I have a question. If there's a misunderstanding in the question, can you reply then and say like, no, that's not what I meant?
Reply only to her.
Yeah.
And not to all of council.
Okay.
I have a question to those of us on council. I guess what we've done in the past is, I feel like, in my opinion, council has gone through the budget line by line. We've compared smaller buckets of money to larger spendings projected for the following year. And then we've got this new comprehensive plan. How do we consider the comprehensive plan objectives in where we decide to increase resources or not? The comprehensive plan is going to cost us money. And I guess the general concern that I have is making sure that if we all have faith in what the comprehensive plan is telling us to do, and we're going to actually implement the plan, because that's our city job, not necessarily specifically city council, but those of us in collective effort that work for the city, making sure that our budget aligns with the goals and aspirations of that, and that we're not, my biggest fear is that we're chipping away a little by this, little with this, little of that. I mean, we had a huge bucket of salary increases. We had to do it though, right? We needed to get back on track in terms of paying people fairly. We have had some major increases, and not a lot of talk about additional revenue. So I feel like all of us have a responsibility to make sure that the budget is moving in the direction that we're hoping to, the gains that we're hoping to have. And I know that we have some business that we need to take care of, like safety on our streets, but we also have to make room for other ways to make money. And like, this building is a priority. We have to do something. It's ours. We own it. So I guess when you're looking at the budget, maybe that's a further conversation down the road in our questions as a collective whole.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to throw something out there, okay? I don't want us to go into a deep dive because I would like to read this. But when I worked for the county, Hamilton County, right? We had a finite number of hours that we could accumulate for a vacation. After that, we lost it. So nobody ever got paid out 12 weeks or 6 weeks of vacation or whatever it was, there was a finite number you could have. And after that, if you didn't take your vacation, poof, it was gone. We need to maybe think about that, because that is a problem. Because why would anybody ever, you just save it all up for the end? I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there.
Well, Madam Chair, I have to agree. I've never had a job where you could get paid for your vacation. If you didn't take your vacation before you left, it was bye-bye. Of course, your sick time, but now they call it PTO, so I don't know how they divide that up. We do need to get some policy in hand, because this has happened in the past before.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So my place of employment kind of is a hodgepodge of the two statements that were just made. There is absolutely a maximum number that you can hold in your bank, your PTO bank, but you always get paid for vacation. You don't get paid for sick. That's the way our work works.
Madam Chair, the same, I would agree with Ms. Zorb, the same where my place of employment, when you leave, you can get paid your vacation time that you've accumulated. Sick leave is only paid at a certain percentage when you retire. But it can follow you if you go district to district.
And I think it depends on, to be fair, what I do know, it depends on how your vacation time is awarded to you. If it is accrued, meaning how you have to work so many hours, you have to earn it. And some people, if it's accrued, you only get paid out what is accrued. Or if it's just yielded to you, then you get paid out no matter what. So
I'm gonna tell you, we need to fix it, whatever it is, because we didn't automatically
Madam
get
Chair.
sick time. We accrued it, but we didn't get, it wasn't like a huge payout. There was a finite amount of time, and that was
Exactly.
it.
Right.
You know, there was a limit.
Use it or lose it. You had to-
Madam
Ours,
Chair,
we had to
this
use
is a
by March.
People are state employees, am I right?
Say that again.
North College Hill is state employees. There's rules for state employees. I'm a state employee.
Yeah.
Well, Madam Chair,
Some of them don't even.
some employee,
Maximum PTO.
Madam Chair, some employees, to save a lot of this, where you know that they would use some of their vacation time, if they have like 2 weeks, you give them a vacation chart and let them write in their birthdays, their anniversary, or whenever they want to take this time. So when those times come, they have to take those vacation days.
They'll warn you that you're about to lose your vacation time unless you take, UC does that.
Right, and let them fill in, whatever time on each chart that they have to take their vacation. And so if this day come and that day come, they have to take that day off.
But I think
You know?
in lieu of what Ms. Underwood is initially bringing up, and she definitely said in lieu of time, I'll say it real quick. So if you ever parted ways by choice of the city or the employee, at the end date, whatever vacation is remaining is what we would be talking about. So even if we did or implemented a policy, as you were saying, where they were required to designate what days they take off, at the point of which their employment was no longer, then we would have to be responsible for what was left.
Right, but it's not the whole vacation day. You know
Fair.
what I'm saying? So, yeah. So,
But I think in the
That
case where
eliminate-
employees haven't taken any, then we would be responsible for the whole amount as it stands. And that's because we do not do an earned time, right? Or
They do earn PTO.
accrued.
In the beginning, the part-time staff didn't earn anything.
Again, I'm sorry. Like I said, I was just throwing that out there. We got to fix it. Whatever we do, we just need to fix it. We getting hammered.
Okay, that's old business. If no one has anything, it is 8:29 and we can adjourn.